the source of all the emotional dysfunction in society, which are local feelings that lead to collective feelings, is the orgasm itself. The longer you do it throughout life, the more numb and distant and cold and toxic and stuck in your own ways you become. You become the lesser version of yourself, the self that doesn't exist, the nothingness. Because if you treat the orgasm like a mindless circus fun tool, you have to understand it's just stimulation. It's not actual peace. Because it drains your sacred energy that you use to have empathy and connection with all of existence, with the great mother, which is nature, which is God, just not how scripture strictly talks about it in any of the religions. Because people think murder is bad, but also some of them say, "Oh, I'll kill someone that threatens my property or my family or me or whatever." But it's the highest form of denial. Obviously, if there's an imminent threat, it may be a last resort type thing. But let me give you an example of how you never need to do that if it's not some immediately crazy standoff, sundown cowboy situation, high noon situation. There was a school shooter that came with like multiple rounds of ammo to a school, and this African woman stopped him by just sharing the pain she went through. That's what's going on in society, is when we don't share our pain with each other, everybody assumes that whatever you're saying is just not true. Because the mental health industry has been so manipulative, so infectious into our ability to actually be happy and be clear and have real good mental health, because they're just a bunch of Nazis from World War II pumping their ideology over and over endlessly in a loop until you realize what's going on and break free from it and actually start healing people with the things you have to communicate with them. Because our feelings are our thoughts and emotions. It's the exact same experience, just from different angles. Because reality is sociological, psychological. It's the same thing, but through the environment, through nature. Because the environmental is the mental, the ecological is the logical. And when you come, it makes you dumb, and numb. If you don't realize the effects it has on the body and everybody else, and how it separates your consciousness from everything going on around it. Because you can feel too good. In fact, that's what so many people are doing. They feel too good about themselves and all their accomplishments and all the things they think they've overcome, et cetera, and they don't realize that pain always will show up until it's addressed, or if you're feeling too good. Because we live in a comfort crisis where people don't give their full effort, their best selves to everyone and everything they do. Or they're only doing that and they haven't spent enough time doing absolutely nothing. It's called Wu Wei in China. Because what's actually going on for the revolution that isn't blood in the streets or eating the rich, because they're not evil, and they are the politicians, the religious leaders, the bankers, the economists, some of the doctors, definitely the mental health industry, some of the art, and it's all sourced from English language and culture itself, because it's colonized everything while forgetting its roots. Not just indigenously in Europe through the Sultans and Kurgans, but in Africa. The psychological social reality, which is Realitsea and Realitsea, because we only exist because of oxygen, from trees in the ocean has the most, is that we're still Africans that are indigenous, surviving in the day-to-day existence of survival. It's just that the day is shit. It sheds light where you feel comfortable all the time, so you're not as observant, and your fear is less. And when fear is turned up, like at night, that's when you see more clearly. It just can't be the paranoia kind of fear. That's an illusory fear that exists. There's only just fear. And you can tell whether you need to use discernment through the fear you're experiencing to understand it or not, which you always do, is by how you feel. Because people are just energy and potential waiting to be nurtured. They're never sad, angry, depressed, anxious, tense, um, uh, whatever manipulative mental health language they use. We're always just potential waiting to be understood and nurtured. Because certain kinds of pain can be healing. Because the essence of healing is not just curing, but getting better at feeling itself. And never, ever, 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 ever saying toxic, shitty attitudes like people don't care, or they're like this, or they're like that, or anything that separates us. Any language we use that separates us feeds into the suicidal illusion of separation. We share this experience, whether we've recently orgasmed, it's been 7 days, been a few days, whether we're high or sober. Because when you're sober, you're already high in your own supply of loving yourself and loving only the people that you love instead of everyone and everything like we're supposed to. Because hate is the shadow of love, and you should only hate the things people say and do, never people themselves. Because there's a song that says by Death Cab for Cutie that says fear is the heart of love, but to add a layer to that, fear and pain and suffering exist, but there's also unnecessary suffering, unnecessary pain, and unnecessary fear. For anything we can absolutely say is true about everything, the opposite can also be equally true if we get in a comfort zone and only understand things one way. Because as the Tao Te Ching says in YouTube from China, which is also the Tao Te Ching, they call it there, evil itself is a excessive self-centeredness and disharmony with the universal process, like an opaque window that needs to let the light in. And the root of all evil isn't money, because evil is not a root. It's an idea. It's in the language that needs to be understood. Because it's just an emotional reaction to behavior that people don't understand because they haven't sat the time with themselves or other people in silence or in real, honest, no masking discussion about what's actually going on for survival of us all. Because survival isn't just feeding yourself or taking care of the people you love. It's considering everything in your heart, the center of consciousness, but through your metabolism. That's why it's not always wise to do the same thing all the time. You have to mix it up and never do it the same exact way. You may have a routine, but you should never... See what I did there? I stopped. A moment of silence. We should never be on autopilot. Because we need sacred rage to cut through to all the numbness that the boomer generation has spread on us when they gave us the horrible, horrible, untrue, suicidal idea that the orgasm is something you can just do whenever you feel like it, like there's no consequences to it. Obviously, it's a thing if you do it after not doing it for as long as possible. Not as a general strategy for being clear. Because there can be no post-nut clarity if you haven't had extended no-nut clarity. And add a layer to that, because English has thoughts and feelings that neutralize the language and ideas that are being communicated that make up reality through symbolism and all that stuff, is music. Music makes things clear. It's the original language we survived from in Africa through storytelling and beats and instruments and having fun. That's what our ancestors survived in Africa, in that environment, in the jungles and the plains, with all the wild animals trying to eat us and stuff. But it's fun that needs to be also serious. That's what existence is. It's serious fun. because like the only thing we should be doing to solve our crisis of survival collectively is self-educating and communicating to each other and never assuming anything about people that is bad, toxic, separative, evil, anything negative. Because if you only focus on the negative without any positive or neutral, then you're lost in a fog or in darkness that needs light to make you see clearly. Because you know nothing about nothing if you haven't truly suffered or put in effort and given your all to something. Or sat in silence for an extended period of time, disconnected from technology, like I have multiple times when I did Vipassana meditation, which is where you sit and you focus on silence in your inner universe, scanning your body with your awareness, your energy, restoring sensation to it, sensitivity. Because sensitivity is the only reason we exist. It is not a weakness, because in vulnerability, you find strength. That's why you need to share your pain and suffering with everyone else as often as possible, as much as you can handle, or record it online and point someone to that video. If you, for some reason, you can't say it in person because you're too chicken shit. Because the numbness of everything is what's getting in the way of being clear about everything. Because there are no beliefs or opinions or theories to a certain extent when you understand that science itself is bad if it's strict and rigid concepts, like saying, oh, people are bad like this or stupid or lazy like this, or you limit your ability to understand something because your feelings aren't in touch with your inner child, your inner teenager, because adulthood is a colonizer illusion. We are all just indigenous Africans still trying to survive the environment, but the apex predators now are our thoughts and feelings and emotions. Emotions local, feelings collective. Thoughts are just nouns. Thinking is the verb. And what fixes English language is changing it completely into something that makes more sense. Because whatever existed before the internet, completely bullshit or open to change. It's that simple and clear, and not set in stone because language is alive. But there's a concept from English called quod erratum demonstratum, which means end of proof, end of logic. Because we're only as smart as everyone else is. It's a frequency we tune into, not from ourselves, but from the universe of the earth, which they call God. In the 17th time I was in the psych ward, they called me God as well. And Father Nature. It was an African man that called me God with the Instagram handle God Stinks. And a Latino man who's also indigenous, because Latinos are indigenous too, despite English culture not explaining that to us. And he called himself Jehovah God. And then another African man called me the Chosen One. He was a cool old man who had that fire of the desire to set the world on fire while pulling it out of its own funeral pyre. Because the fire that gives us life is the love we share with each other, but also the hate that destroys the untruth. That's what enlightenment is. It's the destruction of untruth. And for all you white people that don't even exist, because white, black, brown, yellow, color isn't real. It's a surface level quality that doesn't define the essence. So the only true color that exists is what is clear. Because two ideas that seem untrue or contradicting, or not untrue, but seem contradicting rather, can exist at the same time, and things can still be clear and flow. Like the grass is green, but it's not always green if there's a fire that burns it down and it's black and charred. But people's color makes no sense anymore. That doesn't dismiss all the racist, horrible stuff done, but it just shows you that if we were all the same color, but we had extra eyes or limbs, we'd be calling it that instead of color. So if someone's being racist, they're just numb from their inner child, from the love they were experiencing them in their inner teenager. Because when you come, it makes you numb, 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 and dumb, dumb, dumb if you don't realize it, and always identify with the experience like it's the only sense of peace you can have. It's in the word itself, peace. Ace, like gambling. It shows you the problems of society because the orgasm is stimulation. It's only real connection when we put our heart into it and plan on sharing wisdom with each other in love, but also the pain, the anger, but more so even beyond just anger, which is reactionary, which is weaker, sacred rage. Like Bob Seger, Turn the Page. Because when we're coming of age, we split ourselves from our original self. And unless you recognize that and try and live through that original self and reunite with it, we're cooked because our feelings determine everything. Our thoughts, our emotions, everything. It's our inner emotional realities that make up consciousness. And I'm spitting this from an empty stomach because I don't eat the same way every day. I always change it up. And sometimes I fast for 16 to 17 hours, which is even better. But because of recent pleasurable experiences, I can only get away with fasting for so long at the moment. Because fasting is like the orgasm. Because if you last at least 16 to 17 hours, your body goes through autophagy, which destroys damaged cells. Because you have to live in the totality of your instincts, your primordial self. So that means the love you experienced beforehand, before money became a thing, is still raw and real. Even if the relationship didn't work out and you're trying to live a life of love that needs money, maybe reconsider your priorities. Obviously, if you're with someone that you actually love and money's a part of it, well, that's fine. But for those who are struggling with their emotions and love, you have to understand if you're single, you're just dating nature until you're ready to create a world with the one you actually love, whether you meet that person or they're from the past, to unite everyone and everything for the rest of eternity. Because that's what time is. It's just eternity. Why do you think teenagers react so passionately with everything? Because they're in touch with eternity, unlike the previous generation, because they think time is just past, present, future by itself, like lines. It's a circle that the lines make up, like a Y or a peace sign. With the fourth dimension of time being like the moment of Schrodinger's cat, whether you see the enemy in the video game you're playing there or not, based on how you feel if they're there or not. You see, my body agrees because you can tell whether you're onto something real as shit and true or not based on the reaction of the environment, which is the body. That's what the body is. That's what the mind, the brain, awareness, intelligence is. It's just the body. And we have many bodies of pain, pleasure, and the space in between. Because the suffering I've been through is like no other motherfucker before me. I promise you that. Because what I went through is what the Earth went through nukes. And what Japan went through nukes. And unless you've been through the psychiatric industry of 26 injections of an antipsychotic that nearly kills you, plus the pills after it, and how they can screw up your relationships because they mess with your chemistry, because chemistry determines reality through submolecular and molecular interconnected flows throughout all time and space. Because chemistry is always a choice. Obviously, if you're on some bad chemistry, you can still make good decisions, clear ones that ultimately get us where we need to be. But if you're actively choosing chemistry that hurts you and suppresses your feelings and thoughts and emotions and stuff, you are literally infecting the world around you with poison. Because you can solve any psychological problem you're going through which is also the same thing as all the social problems we're going through forgiving anyone that's ever hurt you. Realizing that they didn't know any better, because when you're taught to always chase consumerism and pleasure, you create mental illness in the world in an endless loop, like Gabriel Mate talks about, a trauma expert that communicates wisdom to people. Because remember, when you look at someone, you're not looking at them just as they are on the surface level, but also our African indigenous ancestors that are still, along with the rest of the dead, guiding us towards survival. Because my last name means holy and a prayer for the dead. And on my YouTube channel, Conversation, I tell the most horrible, dark, fucked up shit I've been through in a video in Counter-Strike. And it shows you the effect it has on the enemy, which is us. We are our own worst enemies in the spiritual war of survival. Because if you judge people and you criticize them and you hate them and there's no love with it or understanding, you're just committing a mass suicide. Because love and the imagination are the most powerful unifying forces in the universe to the earth. It's just that love isn't always about what only feels good. It's about being patient to win the war. It's about moving on past disagreements and bad feelings and into the moment of eternity through what is clear. Because if you've struggled with someone in the past, you just smoke a little bit of that Zaza with them, and that changes all the bullshit you've ever been through with each other and creates an opportunity to see things clearly through eternity. Because unfortunately, I had an experience of that with the woman I love the most, where I called her the hard R because she was arguing with me about our conversation and our spiritual stuff we were talking about. Because I don't like texting. Texting is just smoke signals. It doesn't explain what we're actually going through. The voice makes things always clear about what's going on. Because even if you get into an argument with someone, a shared moment of silence will bring clarity like they do in Japan, which is something I'm working on getting better with, because I get so passionate in everything I say, because I can be completely full of myself. Because when you know you're right about everything, but you also recognize you can be totally wrong at the same time, it's easy to get comfortable in and lost in the sound of the conversation without remembering to take moments of silence. Because we are literally always talking to ourselves when we're alone and when we're with each other. It's just that we can't have expectations of how things turn out based on I see things clearly, so I'll be 100% confident in everything I say type shit. Obviously, we need confidence in what we say, but not so much where we forget to be grounded in everything, or that some people are so, which is what I'm realizing, so numb that you need to break down their numbness to them so they can see things clearly. Whew. Because people have no real wisdom about relationships if it's from before the internet, or if they say, oh, you need to move on from this person and find someone new. If your feelings are saying otherwise about the situation, because relationships are meant to be a lifetime experience with everyone you meet, even if it doesn't work out in that moment. And the only reason it doesn't work out is because the world thinks being sober all the time is wisdom. Obviously, you don't use drugs, which are really plant healing or fungal experiences, or herbalism, responsibly. You use them responsibly, then they're fine. But drugs aren't even drugs. That's a bastardized term by Reagan and Nixon from white culture, from English culture. Because America doesn't run the world, despite being the world. It's the UK. in the church. They're running the world. They've done the most conquering. How it started was a bunch of aggressive men kicked out from egalitarian and matriarchal focused societies back around 3000 BC, give or take 1,000 years. And they were a bunch of Indo-Europeans, Arameans, or Aryans, one or the other, Russians and Iranians that have been manipulating and controlling society. Well, more so trying to, because you can't control and manipulate what you did not create. Because if you understand God and the devil is your spirituality, you fail to understand that spirituality and religion, all of it came from plants, hallucinogenic or not. That God is the devil because they come from the same source. The same manipulative language, the same manipulative emotions, the same manipulative ideas, the same manipulative concepts that try and explain reality. Because anything before the internet is dead. History died then. What exists now is her story. Because he is in her. Heterosexuals are trans. They both have estrogen and testosterone. And they need each other to survive. So there is no gender war. There is no men like this, women like that. And the LGBTQ plus community is the beautiful biodiversity that keeps us alive. Because if it's just heteros all the time, then it's a virus that doesn't know how to stop. Because all it would worship would be sex and consumerism and endless consumption. I'm into women, but I've experimented with trans corn before, and it was enlightening. But I prefer just women. You see how I break reality down for you by explaining things from different angles, because that's the only way to understand it from every angle possible. Like you're in the jungle that the world's made of, that I'm from in the Amazon. Because those 26 injections that nearly killed me I went through are what the Maui people go through, except they go through it with bullet ants through 5 to 20 minutes. And I'd rather have gone through that than their toxic poisons, because they're non-morphogenetic genetic and non-nurturing chemistry. And all they do is fill the body with a nothingness that makes it rageful. And that's why you need to slow down to speed up. Because you don't want to only be slow and relaxed. You don't want to be hyper. There's a space in between where you're relaxed but alert. That's what true sobriety is. That's what really being high is. It's the same experience, just through whatever substances you use, or Eastern techniques, or indigenous ones, to be in that total flow state, Zen state of mind. That's the only thing that actually matters in survival, is a Zen state of mind all the time within every line of the rhyme. Because in the silver lining is in the rhyming, in the timing. Timing is everything. That's why I need to be patient. Despite wanting to rush off and go save the world with this woman, because love must come before money. It's not even fair to call it money anymore. It makes more sense to just call it a tool that can kill us if we understand it as the only means of survival. Because it's just an egregore. It's just a belief that we put energy into that makes it seem real. That's why I don't agree with hip hop artists saying, "Oh, chase the money, not the honey." The only way to get to the honey in the first place is with money, because the essence of what money is just effort. That's the essence of money. It's effort. The physical money or the crypto is just a downstream effect of your effort of connecting with it. And the way to understand anything is to self-educate in the law of origin, and that the law is in the heart, not any other law English says, and the law of balance, or the law of what is clear, the fourth law. These things govern our perception of what is clear of survival. The Tao Te Ching talks about the law of the heart that's written there already. The law of origin, the Muisca tribe I'm from, in the heart or hearth of the world in Colombia, the Amazon, the most hardcore motherfucking place you can ever be, besides the Arctic and the ocean, and the desert to a certain extent. Besides the universe, which we're in now, but it's internal, along with the earth, not external. Because you got to be a total animal in this world, because animals are intelligent. Whatever we call human is just a romanticization that separates us from being animal. Because Luigi reminded us that we're animals. It's just that we never murder to solve our problems. We only communicate to solve our problems. That's the revolution. It's not blood in the streets. It's literal communication of how things actually work. And to get on this level of hyper intelligent, godlike, superhero, total warrior, e-warrior, energy of manifesting the future for us all, because I had an experience with deer recently. 2 deer, a doe and a buck. I was walking at night through a neighborhood and then down the road back to the neighborhood I live in, and I walked up literally next to a deer. 2 deer, a buck and a doe. And I told it, I will help the great mother guide our collective species into the future. And when you speak your intent, because intent determines survival, because it determines our feelings and thoughts and emotions. We speak from it with clarity. And when you do that to a living animal, which is the only reason they exist, and the only reason they exist are because of plants, the most important food item we have, which I'll discuss later, of the need for a balanced diet. Then our creator, which is God, which is really a plant, Mother Nature, because you are God too, or goddess, or deity, or whatever you think is really friggin' cool. When you speak intent to an animal, it carries that energy with it everywhere else it goes. And everything that takes a part of everything it leaves behind, like its poop and its offspring and its urine. Everything is just data and information existing all at once throughout all time and space through eternity. That's what Realitsea and Realitsea is. Because the word reality are just closed because it ends in T. And when you look past the close, then you see everything going on beneath it. And I know I explain things from like topic to topic to thing, but you need to get on this level and stop understanding things strictly from a linear perspective of beginning, middle, and end. The world is the jungle. What do you think about the jungle is beginning, middle, and end? So the easiest way to tie everything I've said together is listen to the jungle. Watch a documentary on it, and it'd all be put into place. Because I am quite literally the spirit of nature itself, getting all you earth rapists on the same page. Because I'm doing it too, and the blood of the innocents is on our hands. And that should make you full of sacred rage, not just anger, to be a guiding light, to find the love that you don't know nothing about if you think it's just a simple orgasm or sex or buying a bunch of stuff or feeding yourself or whatever the old world taught you survival was. Remember, anything pre-internet, total nonsense, open to interpretation. And identifying as the earth and the universe, like I did the 17th time I was in the psych ward, gives you the power to see things clearly through or like the quote from The Last Airbender by the Lion Turtle. For your spirit to be unbendable, you must first become unbendable, to bend the energy of someone else. Not in a manipulative way, but in a way that allows them to see things with clarity for eternity. Their true mind can weather all the lies and illusions without being lost. Their true heart can weather the poison of hatred without being harmed. From beginningless time in the void thrives darkness, but always yields to purifying light. Use that quote whenever you're talking to any stranger, which is the only thing you should be doing when you have the energy for it and the time, online and offline. That is the literal revolution. Because there's a song by Saul Williams called Talk to Strangers and Explain My Heart, two separate songs that you need to listen to get in the right Zen state of mind of that'll feel like an endless orgasm that isn't stimulation like a regular orgasm, but a total Zen eternal clarity of infinite love and peace without the ace and contentment of being totally grounded on the path forward. Because Krishnamurti said, "Oh, the truth is a pathless land." That's accurate to a certain extent, but when you understand everything is the jungle and there's no clear path, follow your instincts and your inner primordial self to totality, and you'll always be shown the way by our creator nature. Naturaleza, as where I'm from, the Spanish say, the Latinos, the indigenous, but also Shizen in Japan and Zoran in China. Because Africa is still running this world, but the British think they have control through their church. Because they preach God and Jesus and the Holy Spirit, but fail to explain, well, it's just from plants. And that the devil is also from plants, that God is just higher self and the devil is lower self. But there's only the self being high or low with everything all at once. That's what true love is loving everything all at once and everything or in everyone all at once. Because if anyone's being actively miserable, they need to be alone or shown toxic empathy or total community empathy empowerment. That's what cures madness and craziness, which is just someone being numb. Because there is no true sanity in a world of people doing the same shit all the time and expecting different results. Or I should say the exact same shit all the time and expecting different results. Whew. Because to fix any problem you're going through with money or emotions, you literally just speak it out loud alone like I'm doing now, because that means you're one with the universe, as the Tao Te Ching says, which is online on YouTube. Or you do it to other people. You don't go to the mental health industry. They don't know what they're doing. They're lost in the teachings of the church, because they're just the church, because they worship money, profit. They treat us like cattle. They are the monolith of all the dysfunction. They are the government. They are the church. They are all the other religions. They are from modern civilization, I should say, at least, etc. and so on. There's a reason why on money they put a pyramid, which is a meditation structure, and they put the all-seeing eye. You know, Sauron from Lord of the Rings. But what it really is, in essence, is the pineal gland, the dream machine, DMT perception of all reality, which I've done because reality is a collective shared hallucination. That's why plant healing and fungal experiences, which aren't drugs, which need to be used responsibly with spaces in between use that your body can handle that you know you can keep using it responsibly is needed. And see reality clearly forever. With or without the Eve, with or without the arc, because English has words within words that manipulate reality. You gotta always be hyper aware of it, because it manipulates the emotions and feelings with it too. Because language can be a cure or a virus that either gets us better at feeling, or keeps making things abstract or numb, or never actually talking about the pain that's actually going on with everything. This is a kalimba, an instrument from Africa. That's a drum, the oldest instrument from Africa. And when you don't even need a drum to drum, you just need to anything around you, and you can get into a rhythm and a flow, because the rhythm is in them. Like that gorilla song Clint Eastwood talks about. Because we need to speak chaos into the air to understand the chaos going in the collective soul, the soul being source of universal language. Or if you don't want to say it outright because you're afraid it cause too much emotions stirred up, you can speak adjacent to it. Like, all white people are just a bunch of triggers, because every accusation is a confession. And anyone using the hard R is calling themselves that. And that's why you don't need to react emotionally to it. The way to beat that is to just say, you're just calling yourself that, bro, because you're scared, weak, lost, but above all, numb. Just purely numb. That's making you dumb from too much come. Obviously, you can say the hard R to say it, but it's got to be met with love, not pure hate. Anyone that says it with pure hate, um, like I have, to my parents when they were taking me home from the psych ward because they weren't listening to my experience on it, and to an African woman because I was stoned and I thought money was important, because I didn't know what I know now, because I was lost in the old world's dream. That is the heart about everything going on. If you identify with what you were taught when you were younger, as a child and a teen, that this is how things are, because that's before the internet. Because the world is not this trauma mentality lens of bad people, evil people, stupid people, lazy people, whatever toxic, separative, inhuman, heartless language that they say, that anyone says. You have to get right with yourself, which is everyone and everything, to unite everyone and everything. And it takes effort to be moral. Morality requires active participation, not mere alignment or nodding to a good idea. So if there's hate in your heart, you need to let it out, um, uh, with people or alone. We need to let all the craziness going on out. Woo, 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 woo. Now you're healed. Identity is contextual. That's the essence of life as a role play. And as a debt, life is also a debt without the lie in life, that we must pay back to our creator. That's why the only political or psychological or social or artistic or cultural or medicinal or whatever we say about survival idea that matters is ecological. conservation with regard to our utmost serious needs. Because wants and desires and indulgences can lead to vanity, and those things can get in the way of our needs. Because I am full of rage, sacred rage. I don't get angry anymore. I get even. Sure, I may like pop off and be reactionary in the moment angry, but I don't get angry of like, oh, I'm frustrated because I'm so worried and stressed out. All our trauma from the past is playing out in the world right now because all the good plants and fungi and techniques from the East, like Taoism, Buddhism, Taoism, meditation, the thing that saves the world, which is meditation, which you need to do alone, away from technology, like I have. Then you will see things clearly, because silence is the cure for the chaos that needs to be spoken to be understood, to bring balance to everything. I am Aang. Now you are Aang. If you don't know who Aang is, just go watch The Last Airbender. Look up the scene, Aang chakra scene, and that'll supercharge your ability to heal forever and everyone else. Because we are the experts now. We are the government. The only thing we need them for is hyper-specific expertise in medicine of serious shit like cancer or significant disease. The mental health industry, it's dead. We don't need that anymore. If someone's struggling, they need pain because they're numb and their energy needs to remember the pain. They need to do it to themselves, or someone needs to pat them on the back, massage them, because we live in a touch-starved society and a social-starved society. So this is healing because it gets you better at feeling. And they need to be barefoot. Everyone needs to be barefoot as often as the environment will let them and they can physically stand it. Because we exist beyond the physical. The physical is really just eternity, bro. That's all it is. It's what subjective is. It's all the same shit all the time, being expressed from multiple different angles. And the thing that unites everything all together is what is always clear, what you can imagine based on how you feel, that creates the reality that we head towards collectively. Because the reality is the imagination backwards. And we need to claim victory and a round of applause for ourselves, for the earth. Because all our problems are solved now. So you should be happy. Really, really freaking happy all the time. Just not so happy you forget the pain going on that people need to be aware of in the chaos. Because there's no such thing as cultural appropriation. And mimicry is the highest form of flattery. This is the shared experience, y'all. So if I'm mimicking someone, y'all better recognize that I'm from the South. But the South near the equator. Not the South of this country. Because the only country music is the blues. The eternal genre. Because there's many countries, you dumb stupid folk. Because when you love everyone and everything, then you're always clear. Always, 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 always. Get it? Always, not always. ALL ways. Because the Tao Te Ching is the way. That's why you need to go listen to it. Because you can think in any way you need to keep things pushing, to keep things flowing. Because we're always flowing. We should never get anything in the way of flowing. Nothing can get in the way of flowing. It can't exist. There is no dam that really exists other than what we say. Because there's infinite possibilities and potential now. So be happy. And that means to choose it, not some later point down the line, but in the moment. As much as your body can handle it with balance to the seriousness of survival of everyone else's suffering going on at the same time. Because it's a balance between asceticism and hedonism. Being the Buddha, but also being the Bodhisattva, which delays nirvana in order to save suffering beings. But also through the bodies of the indigenous and the wisdom they speak. That's why you need to go look up Aluna, the movie from the neighbors to the Muisca tribe from. They're called the Kogi. And they gave us the ultimate final warning by our creator that if we do not get along and take care of nature, it's going to wipe us out. And that ain't a doomsday prophecy from all the other civilizations that tried to predict it. It's pure reality because the jungle determines survival. Because those that live there, like my ancestors have and still do, see things like no other mother rapist of the earth can. Because as loving as we are, we're also full of sacred rage that you may not hear them express. Because unfortunately, when you're too humble, you shrink yourself. You fear your own power. That's why Big Pun and other socially conscious hip hop like Saul Williams and Cunning Linguist and the kind that I've already made are saving our asses from death. Not the death where we return, that's eternity to the earth, like the Ashaninka say, neighbors to the Muisca tribe I'm from, but the never-ending void of complete nothingness, of no sensation whatsoever, like I experienced when I was listening to A Perfect Circle vanish when I was on DXM and 100 milligram dose, where I almost completely disappeared from reality because my body had to literally take over and stop the music 30 seconds in, or otherwise I would have just vanished. That's how powerful language is in determining survival. Because it's always contextual. And the context of everything right now is chaos and pain and numbness that needs to be addressed. Because reality is always nourishing. It's the flow. Because Immortal Technique says it's always nourishment despite people not believing it and leaving the past. Because there's only the future of eternity now. And anything from the past is what can be interpreted after the birth of the internet. That's time now, baby. Because time doesn't even exist to anything but us. We're the neediest of creatures. There is no weak, needy person. That's an illusion. We're all needy. And we're all weak until we recognize strength as being vulnerable and sensitive. That's how strong nature makes us. That's why she loves us to death. That means we need to love our enemies, which is ourselves, to death, because we're always mirrors to each other. Woo, woo. That means we're a bunch of monkeys still. Woo, woo. Or gibbons. Woo, 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 woo. Or gorillas. Woo. Not quite they sound like, but they're hard to imitate. You can go look up their sound. Because when people act animal sounds to each other, that invokes the memories of the animals we still are and used to be. And it brings a total serene calmness to any situation. And it keeps things pushing and moving and flowing. Because whatever kills the vibe can't exist. Because it's a threat to all our feelings and emotions that determine our survival. So if someone's killing the vibe, you need to separate yourselves from them, or they need to be told straight and clear with toxic empathy that they need to kill themselves through not their body stopping its functioning, but through a near-death experience like an orgasm, or not orgasming for a while, or any plant or fungi, or fasting, or hot sauce. They just need pain. Toxic empathy is the idea. Because that's what the psych industry is. It's just toxic empathy. Because it blames the individual for societal problems that's causing the individual itself the problems. Because society is the individual. Individual is society. Like yin and yang, but not just black and white. clear and not clear, or light and shadow. Look up Lupe Fiasco's The Cool album. And here's something I wrote, but if you expect me to sound like the perfect rhymer, you need to let that shit go. It's imperative you enter under 360 stand. Sit, lay down, run, walk, fight, cry, come, bleed, and breathe. Like Pink Floyd, Dark Side of the Moon, breathe in the air. Don't be afraid to care. Because all you touch and all you ever see ain't just it anymore. It's all you feel and all you hear is all we've ever been and ever are. Because the unnatural death we are causing to our collectively shared universal body of many bodies in the earth is through the nukes we've dropped on it and the power we're drawing, which is 1,500 nukes, and the avoidance of the pain and suffering and sorrow and horrible stuff we've been through only because of ideas and language that existed before the internet. That is the source of every unnecessary suffering we've ever experienced throughout all time and space. Because all this toxic energy we're giving to each other by avoiding what's actually going on in our heart is tearing apart the fabric of existence of reality through the genitalia, blasting off like a swarm of shotties, erasing our collective memory. It's the unnatural death of us all, leading to our collective downfall. Because we are already immortal, spiritually immortal. That's why we need to share the darkest parts of what we've been through, with or without the ark. Because God is an experience of power that nature gave to us to see what we would do with it. And now we're remembering that we're all God. Because God's not just a dude. It's an idea, a fluid one. And it came from plants. So that means you can use God however you want to establish authority or power any way you need to that unites the world. That's what the 1% is doing by putting God on the money and saying that the church knows what it's talking about while practicing satanic shit behind closed doors. Because remember, God is the devil. So because you can defeat untruth through facts and logic, because that's what enlightenment is. It's the destruction of untruth. And look up RWBY, This Life Is Mine, and Armed and Ready, and yeah, that should cover it for now. I think I've said everything. Anything I'm missing is in my other video, Share the Darkness. Because relationships need variety, not just one person forever. Obviously, you can dedicate and be loyal to your one person forever, but at the same time, what you agree upon with that one person can also be like being with other people without being polyamorous and getting in that kind of chaotic, potentially chaotic at least, type of relationship. Because like mind sex, like Dead Prez talks about, is real. Because touch alone adds new energy to someone you've been with for a long time, or just talking it also adds that new energy. Because why boomers are so miserable, because they think, oh, I can't talk to other women or other men, or I can't flirt with them, or I can't touch them. It's got to be either cheating or only one person forever. You never need cheating comes because of someone's immaturity, and from something that couldn't be explained authentically before the relationship started. Because we're all fairly hypersexual, most of us are, and you need to break this angelic, good image of people and understand we're just animals. That's what being human means. It means to be an animal. Luigi reminded us of that. We just need to murder anyone. We need to explain how things actually work post internet. Okay, I don't even know how long this video has gone on because my OBS has no timer. So I'll end it here. All right. To solve all your money and feeling problems and thought problems and all that shite, be barefoot in nature, alone at night, wherever that is, wherever it can be outside is nature. Just not inside as a general strategy. That's not safety while the world burns. In clear communication is only when you're outside or speaking from your heart and soul inside. And if you can touch a tree or a leaf or a plant or another person, or a stone or whatever isn't, well, not maybe not stone to a certain extent. Basically, anything that is not an artifact made by a person, it will connect you through eternity. And you meditate with it and close your eyes. And when you visualize, it'll show you the next move you need to make. And if you do it enough, you can even do it without the experience, but with the understanding, understanding, 360 standing, that you'll need to do it again at some point. Because the only common sense that exists is sense itself and listening to the body, telling you that it's time to keep things pushing, keep it moving, keep flowing. Keep choosing to not let this world drag you down in its toxic bullshit that doesn't even exist. Because we exist in the happiest memories of our ancestors in Africa and beyond, in those moments of complete freedom, of inebriation, either alone with the plants and the spirits of the environment or with each other. It's just that alcohol should never be a part of it, or for some reason, if it is, never used irresponsibly. Because it's literal suicide, because it screws with your DNA, your heart, your liver, your brain, your nerve system. It's the thing that makes people completely screw up survival for everybody else, because it only became popular because water wasn't safe enough to drink. Because love of it is death. Because it's so numbing. It doesn't bring clarity. It brings the only actual escape of any substance. It's the only real addiction. Because addiction doesn't exist outside of alcohol. Everything else is just chemical dependency. Because addiction is a misleading, outdated idea that has the word dick in it. And it has nothing to do with chemical dependency. Because if you only think with your dick, you deny the rest of your body and how it works, and you kill everybody else around you. It's just genitals too. Because I realize women aren't perfect either, but they can only be as intelligent as they already are and wise, which they truly are, when men open up about what they've been through to enlighten them about their psychology that's leading to all the social problems. Because when men get all the credit and they don't give credit to women and the LGBTQ plus community that keeps us in balance, in nature itself, the original God, now you see clearly for eternity why things keep screwing up and are cyclical instead of escaping samsara and becoming one with everything at all times in space without the ace. Unless you listen to Master Ace, because he is wise, so wise. And I will spit my rhymes when I feel ready to. Because right now I give reference to the greats that came before me, because I respect those that came before us. Because even Hitler and Mao Zedong and Charles Manson in the flesh, as Big Pun talks about in one of his songs, they helped move the needle. Because when the world thinks it's a total angel, but says it's a devil or a demon or horrible, it's a total contradiction that makes no sense. So horrible things keep happening like those men did because no one has stepped up to the plate like I've been doing for the past year and a half to spread the actual revolution. Not this fanciful revolution of the past, but the final solution, the last revolution. Not because I'm like Hitler. If he wasn't misanthropic, which means he hated people, because he didn't just hate Jews, he hated sharing his pain with people. He was the child, as the African proverb says, that burned the village down. Because no one's been evil ever or stupid. They've always just gone with what they thought was best in the moment. Because there's always been problems because there was no internet or good plants or fungi to use that would have led to better solutions. Because they cure aggression in men. So this isn't an option that people have to be afraid of them. They just need the right preparation set and setting to do them with, the right support, or to be alone with them to do them. And because there was a cop that went to a sacred church that did fungi because he was too aggressive, causing problems, and then he became a calm, cool, chill guy. That's their power. Because anyone can handle them, whether someone is using them directly or they're in the presence of someone that's using them. Because chemistry is a shared experience. That's reality, baby. Because we should be going all out all the time until our body needs sleep. Because like Nas says, sleep is the cousin of death. Because you enter the unconscious, so that means you need to write down what you're trying to remember to the next day of what you're feeling that is clear at that moment that got you through the day. Because we're always just playing an experience of skipping a stone throughout eternity. It's just that the night is where we really need to spend most of our time trying to be awake for as often as we can to what we can handle and carry throughout the day. Obviously, if you need to work and you need sleep at night, that's one thing. But for when you have time to be awake at night, you should spend that time at night. Because that's the thing about work and food and survival. It's all there. The money we need for a revolution is already there. You don't need to make a bunch of it when it's already there. You need what can happen is we demand and take all our savings and pile it together, and then we get to the wealth of the billionaires that they have, because being rich is a state of mind. Success is psychological. Because true currency, true wealth is action and demands from a system that relies on human sacrifice to survive and create endless viral growing tumor economy. Because Muse said the fat cats need a heart attack. No, they need the light in their darkness. We need to love them to death. Not kill them through murder, but love them like nature loves us to death. Because what they need is to be in the Amazon where they're killing my neighbors for Judgment Day. We're not going to kill them there, but they're going to need an experience there that shows them the light they've been running from. Because they've infected their fear and hatred of everything into us that's causing all the death and unnecessary suffering. So what can happen there, which would be fair to them, is what we call punishment, is a timeout where the jungle can show them what they've been lacking through fasting psychedelics, both, total sobriety or fasting with total sobriety, psychiatric meds, herbalism, meditation. The thing that solved the world's problems. When you take time to be completely silent and let the environment be the original guide and teacher of survival. Because what's literally happening is we're always speaking how we feel about everything. In our intent, if it's to make things clear and unite us, shows us the path forward, even if you can't see it clearly. Because anything else just kills the vibe and dooms us all. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. And the last thing, to understand things clearly, self-education is the only education. And the best place to start is understanding that intelligence is awareness, so study the body. Because the brain you can understand through Carl Sagan's Glorious Dawn. The heart you can understand through neurocardiology. The metabolism, the original brain, formed through hydrothermal vents in the ocean, which are self-replicating, also asteroids, which is self-replicating cells that became everything else. That's what spirit is. That's what God is. Nature. I don't know how to make it more clear to you. It's also the nerve system, not nervous. Because why would you call your own electrical flow nervous? You just have to fix whatever doesn't make sense to you into a language that does. And we'll all be on the same page eventually. We already technically are. It just takes communication to get there. Because our Creator is giving birth to our future. And we need to be as supportive to each other as possible. That means chasing tears equally to the orgasm. Because it's not just sleep token. It's wake without the funeral token. Smoking that Zaza. Or vaping that rah. Sun God. Light. Into the darkness that purifies it. A mortal technique. This is a technique I'm explaining to you if you close your eyes and visualize. So, language are spells that speak from magic that gives us the power to see through eternity clearly. If you imagine a word, the word backwards is dro, like Zaza, like tree. Kwamba, the original word it was called in China and Asia. You can also add acronyms to things like soul, source of universal language. Or add words onto existing things like brain forest, not just brain. Because that which there is the most rain, the most moisture. Because if you only desert, you making things dry and drying up all the southern tier, so to speak. Ooh, ooh. And no one likes that. Because we live in a dream world, as the Toltecs say, always explaining it to ourselves through the dream of the earth. But now it's the dream of the universe. Because as much as the Europeans have contributed to science, they have forgotten to give credit to the women that really pushed the needle along, of Ada Lovelace, the first computer programmer, and Rosalind Franklin, the first woman to add to the understanding of the body through the crystalline structure she observed through an X-ray image of DNA that was a cross. Probably not a crosshair. Or no. A crosshair, probably not a cross. The cross is a shitty symbol. It shows that some dude suffered for everybody else. But when everybody's suffering, some dude doesn't suffer to solve problems for everyone. He goes through shit to stop having to make everybody go through shit. Unnecessary shit. Unnecessary suffering. Because Jesus is a crippled Christ, as Jack Jill talks about in Claerhaut's Gray Flowers. And God is losing his touch, as they talk about in that album as well, in the song Losing His Touch. So, to convince all the religious people that their shit is wrong, because beliefs are police of the mind, and they can be as enlightening and empowering as they are completely suicidal, you just explain to them every story they've ever told about anything from all their text, from plants. The law of origin determines survival, because it brings balance to other patriarchal stories of, oh, it was a man that did this to man and blah, blah, blah. Or the ones that say, oh, it was Eve, with failing to understand that Eve is Mother Nature, that she was not created from a rib. She created herself from nothing through endless darkness, infinite thought, and fire. She's always been. Because in nature, it's the Kogi say that, in nature there's parthenogenesis where no sperm is needed for survival, like in sharks and lizards and insects. Or such things as cellular division, like mitosis and meiosis. If I'm getting that correct, it's been a while since high school, so I've looked up meiosis. I know it's true for mitosis, but there is cellular life that continues without male, female, sperm, egg. Plus, there's the LGBTQ plus community, all their beautiful, diverse nature that makes the jungle beautiful. And look up Frog Piano Flow on the Night of Naraka SoundCloud I made. That explains how to understand reality. Frog Piano Flow. That's it. That's everything. I'm quite sure I didn't leave anything out. Hey. Oh, right. Look up Mopai. That's how you become immortal and carry with your conscious, spiritually immortal, and carry your conscious with you past death. I'm quite sure I said that before, but hey, might as well say it again and again and again and again until you get to the 10, to the 10, to the 10, not commandments with a 0 and the 1, 0 being the universe like this, our local solar system, or of all of infinity, or 1 being the earth of many bodies. Like many hotties, carrying many shotties, threatening any man that tries to kill the vibe. Because women should have all the most powerful weapons. Men can just have MMA, or if they can be trusted with non-lethal weapons, or swords, or nunchucks, or bow staffs, or knives. To be because like we're not always going to be together around each other unless we're on the internet. We're going to be like in different groups, or we're going to be in large gatherings, or we're basically just going to be having fun forever. We just can't let too much fun make us forget about all the pain and unnecessary suffering we went through to get us into this endless party, but also times where we're not partying, where we're doing absolutely nothing at all, to get our energy back, and while we're working to keep society going. That's the future we're headed towards. Not doomsday of of endless death, of non-existence, that only happens if you ignore everything I just said and you try and uh, do anything else that's killing the vibe. Because who am I? I am the one that read Who Am I, a Eastern text from India that breaks shit down clearly for you to understand. Another text you need to check out. Because in it says the world doesn't even exist. Because it makes sense, because as the Tao Te Ching says, the Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao, and the world is language. So if we speak language that came from the environment, that is the imagination that we truly exist in, that's toxic, negative, separate, cold, distant, then we're creating a reality we're headed towards where we don't exist. So choose love. There can be toxic empathy as well if someone's being miserable. Okay? Children, babies, goo goo ga 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 ga. Because if you want to be an immortal, you need to be the master of your energy, of language, of your emotions and feelings and thoughts. Because thoughts can be totally chaotic, but that's the beauty of them. They're chaotic to bring balance to how good you're feeling. So if you're experiencing intrusive thoughts, it's a sign from the universe that you need to understand that you ain't perfect. You need to slow down a little bit, and remember that we are the darkness as much as the light, because the blood of the innocents is on our hands, and we need to wake the shit up, to freak up to what's going on, and stop treating calm like it's the greatest, most perfect thing ever, because tears are what actually got us here. Because if it was only sex or masturbation all the time, there's a reason why they started circumcision, because they knew that too much of that screwed up our ability to survive, because it drains awareness and consciousness and energy away from the body. Because tears free us from the sensation of needless suffering. Because tears are commitment, growth, clarity, evolution, release of old, outdated suffering we've been through collectively that was unnecessary. And if you can't cry, you need to find a way to make yourself cry. Or if you have just no tears left to cry, they'll come eventually through your eyes. That's the real orgasm. But in the meantime, you can just massage your belly clockwise and then counterclockwise, your neck. You need to drain your lymphatic system. Look up a video on that. You need to self-soothe. And consider the night the ultimate divine way of understanding everything, not the day. The day is only good for what the night can bring. That's why I don't like that song, The Night Is Nothing to Give. The lyrics from Nothing to Give in the album A Piece of Strange by Cunning Linguist. I don't agree with that. I think the night gives us everything. Why people do horrible stuff in the night is because they're too afraid to do it during the day. Because the day isn't as clear as the night. Because the night gets you high with a buzz that doesn't require plants or fungi or whatever. Because if you imagine the universe, is it more night or is it more light? It's truly both, but we grow the most in the shadow. Because we indigenous solved the world's problems forever. And you can be indigenous too, but you got to first identify as nature, but also have your foundation of seeing things as nothing. Because we're made up of 99% space in our bodies. Because nothing isn't nothing, it's potential. Because we create reality every time we talk about it. As long as it's grounded in truth, and the essence of truth is always what is clear. regardless of words within words, genders within genders, names within names. Gotta be hyper aware of that manipulation in English. It's because the church is still running the show through their colonization of everything, through all the other religions and such. Because the only true religion is that of the heart, the imagination, in the universe and earth, and natural lays on nature, Shizen, Ziran, and whatever Africa calls it. Which you can also balance with Baha'i, which is in Africa, which is saying all religions are true. Just nothing can get in the way of the vibe and the flow. Ever. Ever, 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 with or without Eve. So I'm sure Eve is cool, but they never talked about Eve and where she came from, other than some rib from some dude, which is not how anything works at all in nature. They were high on DMT when they wrote that story, because Revelations came from mushrooms, and the Quran came from Dartora, and then in Mount Sinai for Judaism, it was a flower or some other kind of plant that made them hallucinate. Because reality is a shared collective hallucination. That's why when you do psychedelics responsibly, you see all the you take off the veil of the manipulation of the 1% through education, culture, and language, and some of it's science, because it's survival of those that can work together, not any competition that divides us. Because the original point of competition itself was to make us grow stronger and disciplined and focus and work on our communication skills. That's how important video games are going to be and are now for our survival, because they allow you to do MMA, which is what they are if you're not physically capable of it. Because there's an example of a paralyzed dude I saw who played with his mouth, and he had godlike skills. Because we're all warrior sage scientists and healers. But you need to educate yourself and listen to the music that talks about it. More music I'm leaving out. Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, The Wall, Animals. Those are good albums by then. Leonard Skinner, that song that says the smell of death is around you. What else? I'll just keep jumping around for what I can remember. Anything from socially conscious hip hop, shit talking gangster hip hop like Big Pun, which is a mix between the two. Army of the Pharaohs, Vinnie Paz. There's so many. I'm forgetting some now, but I can remember them later. All right, memory itself, it exists through feelings. That's why we need tolerance breaks, despite wanting to keep using psychedelics a lot, so we can keep using them. Because they just eliminate pain so much, suffering becomes a problem. Because you keep forgetting to suffer the clear, sober way, the original way of suffering. It's about balance. The most toxic stuff, horrible pain stuff you've been through, you can use psychedelics to balance it out, to see things clearly. Just, you gotta feel it out. We're always feeling everything out. That's why it's called philosophy. Our Greek ancestors called it phil, which means love of wisdom, but it's more like philosophy. We're always feeling everything out, because we can only keep our word when we understand how we actually feel. That is the true essence of the word, based on how we feel. Because remember, a word is drilled backwards, and sometimes you can only get the right language to keep going through plants or fungi or herbalism or Eastern stuff or relative Western music and philosophies. Through doing what you feel works best in the moment. Even if you said, "Oh, I'll do this later because I made a promise last night," or whatever. No. You want to keep your promises to people and your word to people the best that you can, based on how you feel, because survival is determined through feelings. So if someone says, "Oh, I'll do X, Y, and Z," and they don't end up doing that, but they're still surviving and they're not killing themselves or anybody else or the vibe, then it's fine. But we can always figure everything out through the right energy. Because sometimes you gotta give energy to get energy, keep going, and let the moment in silence and in stillness without the illness cure and show you the path forward. Because all I know how to do is give it my all, and then do fuck all and do nothing. That's pretty much the easiest way for this revolution. And this video has gone on long enough. All right. Remember, what is clear ends the fear. Because if you, in some state of mind, whatever it is, out in nature, use your ears to be your eyes, and your instincts to see through all the lies.